Good evening and welcome back to another episode of What's Your Story? It's been a few weeks since we've been on air with any of our guests. There's been a few snowstorms in the way and we've done a little rescheduling and reshuffling. So we are very excited to have two people in the hot seat tonight. So Dan Beard, you've been on before.
Correct.
And Jim Burrows, this is your first time on our show.
Yes, ma'am.
But we thought it would be really fun to have the two of you together to talk a little bit about the town and, some of the things that you've seen while you've been here. Did you grow up here, Jim?
No.
Can you tell us a little bit about where you come from?
I don't like to. I come from. The folks moved here in '45. They moved from Kennebunk over here.
Okay, so not too far away.
No.
So 45. So you were around during the fire of 47?
As much as I could be.
Yeah.
Mother kept moving me because she and the crew in Chestnut Street were feeding 250 people an hour.
Oh my gosh.
So every time she moved closer to the fire, but she didn't know that at the time.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So when did you start on the fire department?
At age 12.
At age 12. What about you?
I was in college.
You were in college, okay. Okay. So did you meet then? No.
No.
Okay.
I met Jim originally in 1954
Okay.
at the Arundel Opera Theater.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
That is right. Mm-hmm. Which is where the fire station is
Correct.
today, right? Okay. So, and what were you doing there?
I was an usher.
You were an usher. Okay.
And a few years later, I was a stagehand.
Okay. Did you ever get on stage?
Yeah.
Yeah. What
was-
kinds of things
I
did
was
you
a guard, and
Oh,
I was a drummer for some part in Tosca. I played snare drum, so.
okay.
I didn't know that.
That's great.
We got to keep the stories about the theater clean.
The good old days.
So when I started working here at the library and I, learned a little bit more about the town, there are different fire companies. Could you explain how all of that came to be? Or it's interesting because you've got a few, right?
4.
4. Okay.
Go for it, Jim.
The companies originated out of necessity.
Okay.
You had a hose wagon, a hose reel here. They had one down at WYS District. The Cape came into existence in 1900, was it?
1906, I think.
Yeah, okay. That's about the time the water mains got down there.
That's when they started, yes.
So, and Goose Rocks was the latest comer. I think they started sometimes in the 20, in some like 1920 or so.
Okay, and that's because houses were being built and, right, so. And do you cover for each other? Like, how does all that work?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, how does that work?
That came about because of the fire of 47. Before then, the relationship between the individual companies wasn't that strong. It got very strong. We lost 25% of the town.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And today, realistically, we never know out of which station who is going to show up, if anybody. And if I could put a plug in, we need people, particularly younger people, not like Jim and I.
Oh, come on.
Who are willing to join us. And can be a lot of fun and a good feeling about supporting the community.
Yeah.
And so if there's anybody out there who's even remotely thinking about how to serve the community and learn a lot,
Yeah.
come join us.
And who would they talk to about something like that?
Jim?
Would they call you, Jim?
I carry an application over the visor in my truck, but they can call
Good deal.
fire administrator, during the work week.
Okay.
Or just march into the village station, and Dick, who is the fire administrator, should be there. And don't be,
That's Dick Stedman?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
or the chief, either one.
Or the
Yeah.
chief, yep. And they hand you an application. Do you have to go through a physical fitness test or take some courses? I know that there's training. I see some things on social media.
There's training. I'm not. I don't know what the department does since I haven't been administrator. I think last time you just had to fill out a form and go to a place called Workwell to get cleared to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could be a driver.
Yes.
You could be directing traffic. You don't
Correct.
go in the fire and, right, you don't go in a building unless you're certified.
Well trained and certified.
Okay.
Those days are gone.
Those
Yeah.
days are gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim and I can watch from afar.
Yeah, yeah. But I've seen, I've ridden by when there's a fire call. I've seen you both out
Oh, yeah.
there. you
Doing
know,
something.
Doing something. So,
Right or wrong, it doesn't matter.
no. It amazes me though, because it seems like you have a good core of people. I know that when we've had something here at the library, it's amazing. It's amazing how many people show up and get the job done, and off you go to your next call. Or, yeah, it's there's a lot of good camaraderie.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah,
And women are very, very welcome. We've got a couple of gals who are first class,
Yeah.
and we could use more.
yeah, okay. I'll put the word out.
Okay.
And so age-wise too, we've got a few of our, I think, patrons that have signed up, and I've seen them at different things, Alex and Nate, and they're always ready to roll. So it's nice to see everybody working together.
What's that?
So-
Minimum age 18, isn't it?
I can come in at 16 as a junior.
Can you?
As a
Okay.
junior, okay. Probably can't drive a truck at that age.
No.
Nope.
I always have a hard time. I would never be able to back it up,
We have something in common.
I'm not commenting.
So the trucks have changed over the years. You have like size, shape, what's on them, the technology. Can you talk a little bit about, some of the older trucks and what's there today?
It's my dad was janitor we're under Legend County, which is what village evolved into.
Okay.
So he'd come back, work for the colony. Mother would send me across the street with Dad so she could have a little peace and quiet. One of the things we had to do in the wintertime is make sure the oil burner stove was working and chip the ice out from underneath the trucks because it was open underneath to the river. There you go.
This is when you had the truck stored where?
What is now 31 Ocean Avenue.
Yeah.
31 Ocean. Okay. Yep.
The old fire station.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's one behind the town office. Is that the one you're
Yeah,
talking about? No. Okay.
No, the one
That's different.
down on Ocean Avenue.
Okay.
Has a belfry. It's the one building that has a belfry down on Ocean Avenue.
I think I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah. So, so you have. Are there water trucks?
There is one tanker truck,
One tanker truck. Okay,
Yes.
I knew it wasn't a water truck. Tanker truck.
and all of the engines have water on them.
Okay.
But there is one that is specifically a carrier of large amount of water, and that's at Goose Rocks.
So if you got to a place where, say, you needed water, do you, besides the hydrants, like, is there a way that like, say someone has a pool or something like that? Would you have to use anything? You have to think outside of the box if you need water supply?
We have to think outside the box, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And one of the things that Jim is very, very in charge of and has put together are the dry hydrants around town, which are basically non-pressurized
Okay.
hydrants with a pipe that goes into a pond or other water source.
Okay.
So that when you need water in those situations, the trucks can draft or draw water
Okay.
out and pump it off to someplace or fill themselves up. And Jim, really the
Wow.
mastermind of that over the years, and I don't know how many we have.
Something like 65.
Wow.
more.
So you have a whole map of where they are. So if you have to go on like location somewhere, you know exactly where those are.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
They've been put on the I am responder thing, so they gives you a better idea where they are.
So now the two of you, you've also been involved with KEMS,
Correct.
right? So you're their treasurer?
Right.
And have you been with KEMS for a long time, since the beginning, or?
No, it wasn't at the beginning.
They dragged you into it?
God bless Paul Mosier, he got me into it.
Ah, okay. I remember that name. So
He thought they needed some fire department input on the board.
that's probably the good liaison back and forth, right? Yeah. So KEMS is kind of unique.
Yes.
How did KEMS come to be?
Basically, the Bibbers had provided the ambulance service for the town for many, many years. And they decided that it was time for them to get out of that business.
Okay.
And they gave their ambulance and equipment to the town. There was a number of very hardworking guys, Dave Rolfe and Ken Campbell and Bob Barabee and a few others who really were the forerunners. I was one of the original also, but I was not in the real guts of starting KEMS.
Okay.
But I was part of the original crew.
Yeah.
And
And was Sarah part of that crew as well, your wife?
Sarah got so tired of hearing the alarm go off at dark o'clock that she decided she might as well join and be part of it and get up and go
Yep.
too.
Can't beat 'em, join 'em.
Yep, exactly. And she started, call it a year after we really were up and running.
Yeah. So do you have family members that are part of the fire department or part of KEMS, Jim?
No.
Just you?
Yep.
Wow. You couldn't figure out how to...
I had a grandson that was in it for a while, but he moved to California. So
Oh, that's no help.
It's a long time to get here for a response.
Yeah, I would think so. So I'm going to see if either one of you would share maybe a story of something you remember of, kind of tell us about a fire or an incident that you remember would be fun for our audience to hear.
Oh, I can
Anything
think
come
of
to
a bunch.
mind? You got a few.
One of my major boo-boos in the beginning, we got a call for a gentleman that most of us on the crew at the time knew fairly well, who was lying in a bed and with his family around. And I'm taking blood pressures
Okay.
and this sort of thing. And the gentleman sits up and says, "Where am I going?" "We're going up to the hospital and get you checked out." and he'd lean back. Where am I going? And I told him, this must have gone on 4 or 5 times. And the, call it 5th time, where am I going? And I don't know what, I said, Bibbers. Well, the poor family probably could have killed me at that time. Unfortunately, the patient was at Bibbers 2 days later.
Oh, no.
But I have tried to live that down a lot of times, and I think, what a total ass. But it just came out.
That happens.
Oh,
That happens. That happens. Do you have a story for us? And it doesn't have to be about you. Dan's bearing his soul here, so.
Like I said, the folks moved from Kennebuck down here in 45. We didn't have a car or a license or anything, so the realtor picked Mom and Dad up, brought them down. And he approached, the house they ended up buying was the corner of Ocean and Chestnut, and he approached it so that you wouldn't realize the building across the street was the fire station.
Okay.
And he hemmed it. And Mother was slow in making decisions. He was trying to get them out of the house before the new whistle went off, because they did the whistle now. Boy, he didn't succeed. But the minute the whistle went off, Mother said, we buy it. We'll take it. Dad had always been involved in the fire departments unofficially here and there, so
Yeah, yeah.
that's what sold the house.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good place to live, right? Pretty safe, you know?
back in the good old days.
Yeah, yeah, I think I'd be, we used to have, I don't know if the whistles here would go off at certain things, but I remember when there was a snow day, we'd have a snow day at school, and the only way you knew was if you heard the fire whistle.
Yeah.
And it was like, 8, 2, 1, or something like that. But it was before the what do you call them, the radios, the scanners. So, but we would sit there and we'd listen. Oh, did you hear that? Did you hear that? So, or the 12 o'clock whistle we would always hear. And there was another one, I think 9 o'clock at night. It blew.
Curfew.
Curfew.
Yeah, so that was curfew. So I kind of miss those because you could hear it from everywhere. So, so as far as like the dispatch, I'm always curious to know how that works to get the information out to, like, say, okay, so if you could walk me through a fire call.
But you want to go back into the history of dispatch first.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Because prior to telephones, someone would have to find the fire, run down and ring the church bells.
Okay.
Or down on Ocean Ave, they had their own bell they could ring. But once telephones came in, can't think of the right name, or Agabus Weinstein's block
Oh, okay.
on the second
Wine
floor
size. Yep.
Yeah.
was the central station for the telephone company
Oh, okay.
prior to the dial system coming in. So a fire alarm actually cost the town, I think it was 5 pounds of 5 pounds of chocolates at Christmas time for the ladies that ran the switchboard.
Oh, okay.
Then when the dial tone started coming in, it got moved to Earl Bibbers for one time.
Okay.
And then it got moved down to 31 Ocean Avenue.
Okay.
And finally, it came up to the hill in 55.
The hill being
And that's Crow
underneath
Crow
the
Hill.
water tower.
Underneath the water tower. Yep. So, so a call comes in, and then does everyone have a little radio on? I hear a lot of people when I'm if I'm at a meeting somewhere,
Yeah.
a beeper. And that lets you know what's happening.
Yes.
How many?
Yes.
Because a lot of your firefighters are volunteer, So do you just, whoever's available automatically goes, or?
Hopefully.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm sure that there's some people that are working. So do they figure out, like, if they're at work that day, they help out at night, or do you know who's gonna come?
that's the
No.
problem.
Okay,
You know, if you're going, you know you're going to be there. That's about it
okay,
initially. So
yeah,
The other thing which Jim mentioned the name of, which is available and most of everybody has, is I Am Responding. Why don't you talk about that one?
it's something that comes in on your telephone. It requires more knowledge than I understand because I still haven't figured out the phone yet.
I haven't either.
But there is a program that the town leases, and they can do they do an I Am Responding, or they do another one,
okay.
and you get the message that way.
So they know how many people are showing up.
Yep.
And if they don't, like, call you off if they've got, it's all hands on deck?
It's all hands on deck
Okay.
until the scene is cleared
Okay,
by an officer.
okay. So, do you also help out if there's a neighboring town that might need
Yeah.
assistance?
Absolutely, because
Okay.
nobody has got enough people and equipment in
Yeah,
some cases. I mean, you
Yeah.
think of a small house fire,
yeah,
we're probably going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
You take a fire in Dock Square or God knows the Colony or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. You know, you're going to have everybody in York County down here,
yeah.
yeah, type of thing.
Now, what if there's a call offshore? How does that work? Do you have a fire boat somewhere?
We maintain 2 rubber
Zodiac.
Zodiac,
things.
yep.
And
Okay,
the game rules are is on the inside of the islands, Goose Rocks and Cape Porpoise. Beyond that, that's Coast Guard's problem.
okay, okay, yeah, yeah. Because I live in Saco, down in the Camp Ellis area, and I see a fireboat
Yes.
there. And every once in a while, it
Yeah.
has to get out to something.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure if, like, something like that gets shared, or if there's something over on this side. Do they come and help you, or?
I suspect they would if we called,
Okay, so it depends on,
but it would, it would have to be something very special.
yeah, yeah.
Lower Village for a number of years had a fireboat,
Okay,
and the number of times that it was called was very, very minimal,
Yeah.
and the cost of maintaining it
yeah,
and the maintenance, just who out of the fire department gang is going to go down and every day and make certain that it's up and running type
Right,
of thing.
right.
And considering the number of calls that it actually was needed for, they did away with that
Couldn't justify
20
the,
years ago now, maybe, or
yeah,
Something like that.
something like that.
yeah,
And we've been very fortunate. We've had very, very few calls offshore. We've had several boats that have run onto the rocks and been destroyed off of Goat Island and that area. But again, the Coast Guard can't get into them because there's
right, because they're
and-
inside the islands.
yeah, and on the reef that runs off of Folly Island. But the rubber boats, we will take them outside the islands, depending on whether or not the weather is appropriate.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not strictly a stay inside.
It's, I see trucks on the Pool Road quite a bit. So like where University of New England is, there's always something going on over there. It's like, did another bag of popcorn burn in a microwave? I don't know. But anyway, I see the fire trucks going back and forth on that road all the time. So I don't like how like Goose Rock's station. Do they cross that line to like
Bedford and
Fortunes?
Saco don't have enough trucks to go back and forth. They're called Goose Rocks,
Okay, that makes sense. 'Cause
which
that's
which isn't meant to be a pun, but it's, if they're on another call, they're called Goose Rocks.
yeah,
Or
because
they're
that's a
called-
long stretch.
Or they're called A1
Yeah.
if all their ambulance units are deployed someplace.
Okay, okay. Because I always see them, and it's a Sunday night. There's a lot of activity down there,
Yeah.
and I think, oh, somebody's got the popcorn burning again.
Every once in a while, it's an honest fire.
Wow, I bet there is. Yeah, I don't mean to joke about that because I'm sure
Well,
there
we all
are a
do.
lot. So I wanted to just touch on KEMS a little bit because I know that KEMS is really unique as far as what the makeup of it. It is a nonprofit here in
Yes.
town, and so the money comes from donations and fundraisers and
Town.
the town.
Town.
The town gives a percentage. So that's really interesting to me. Why it's not part of, the like in other towns where it's a part of a fire department. But there's a lot of really positive things that are. It's a beautiful rig for one thing. And it's got, it seems to have like such a, just additional, I don't want to say concierge, but like really additional like TLC and help and, these people are trained.
Yeah. Oh, very much so.
And so it's not like, just anybody gets in the ambulance and drives around, but it's amazing how many calls and how that all works. So, and you have a program for people who might need assistance a little bit more than once a year. Is there a paid program that people can participate? Frequent flyer.
Hard to say that
Frequent flyer program.
there's what we call a subscription service.
Subscription service. That's what it
that
is.
people can join. That will offset what their insurance doesn't cover if the ambulance goes. Yeah, they have to use the ambulance.
Yeah, and they get billed when transport. Is that correct?
Yes.
Not for showing up.
That's correct.
Because I think that there's a little. I think people are nervous about calling, and I've seen KEMS come here and they do a really thorough check. Do you want us to take you? There's not just they'll ask many different ways
Yes.
and make sure that the person's okay to, before they take off. But so anything we could be doing to help you spreading the word on anything?
You're working at it right now. It's interesting for me to go back to the history of KEMS from the use of volunteers until now everybody is paid. But when we started, there were no radios for KEMS.
Okay.
So those of us who were on call during the course of, and we had a sign-up sheet.
Yeah.
We had to stay home next to the phone or near the phone
Yeah.
because dispatch would call us and say, go to XYZ Street for whatever. And then eventually we had a gentleman in town who was a surgeon who lived out of town but had a summer place here.
Yeah.
And he found enough money for us to get some of the original
Okay.
radios
Yeah.
so that we could actually get out of the house
Yeah.
and, go to the grocery store, whatever. And then it's, gone from there to where we are now.
Yeah.
And
Amazing.
originally, the dispatch on top of Crow Hill received, for all practical purposes, all of our calls directly,
Okay.
as opposed to having a so-called PSAP,
Okay.
which is, we use York, and they've been very, very good over the years.
Do you find with GPS it makes it easier, or does it make it harder?
Kennebunkport's unique. Sometimes it's sends you to the wrong place, like it's the right place if you rely on the GPS.
So do you do any extra training with volunteers, or like, get out there and know your streets, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Know the shortcuts?
Fire does.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
One of the neat things to do, we haven't done it at the Cape station where I am for a number of years, but I drew a series of, on scale, bridges, a couple of buildings, and a river running through or something of that nature,
Right.
but no roads.
Okay.
And said, okay, guys, if you're leaving the Cape Station and you need to go to Whitten Hill Road, draw in
Okay.
the way that you would get there.
Yep. That's really smart.
And it really makes
Yeah.
everybody think
Yeah.
about exactly what road or roads would be the most appropriate,
Yeah.
as opposed to being told, oh yeah, you go down this and go down that.
Yeah.
And it would drove everybody nuts, but it was a lot of fun.
No, I think that really makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
And especially if you know a quick way to get somewhere. So, or you might, during a storm, you might think, okay, that bridge might be out. I need to go that way, or something like that.
Well, just call it within the last month. We got a note over the radio that there had been an accident on Route 1 in Biddeford. The road was closed
Okay.
for the ambulance. You cannot get to the hospital using Route 1.
Oh, wow.
And that sort of information is
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
thanks to the dispatch and what have you,
Yeah.
that kind of information makes you think,
Yeah.
okay, how are you going to get to the hospital if you can't get there by Route 1 from the village or any place else, but primarily from the village area?
And I think that even, for people who are, in your car and, you're getting somewhere, you don't even think about that anymore. You just pop in but I would think for you all, that would really be important to know all those back streets. So, so have you made a game out of that for people to, they have to take a quiz and figure out?
I haven't done it for a bunch of years, but it was a real hoot.
Did anybody get close?
Oh yeah,
Oh, good.
but with a lot of head scratching.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of have to get in there and
Yeah.
kind of visualize it as you're...
Which road attaches to which road where
yeah.
in relation to this bridge or this particular landmark. You could use the clock farm as a landmark, 'cause everybody would know it.
Right, right.
Or whatever. But how are you going to get there?
From here.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So, Jim, do you have family that's here? Do you have family in town?
Just Ginny and I are the only ones live in town now. Jennifer had Winks, but she's living up in Sanford. Janine, our other daughter, lives in Kennebunk.
Okay. I miss Winks. Do you miss Winks?
No, because I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning.
Oh,
Making coffee.
baking the bread, making the coffee?
No, I just had coffee duty.
Oh, okay.
I'm starting to learn
okay.
how to make bread and things now. But
Yeah, that was a tried and true for a long time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but I see her doing other things these days.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anything else you want to talk about today, or anything else come to mind? Do you want people to know about?
Oh, all kinds of things.
I know.
Yeah, there is so much marvelous history. You know, my wife and I have only been here for 60 years, so
Only.
yeah. But by comparison to Sonny Hutchins or somebody
Right,
who's
yeah.
been here, but just in that 60 years that we've been here, the changes which have taken place,
Yeah.
and the history that we've gotten used to prior to when we came. You know, the old Clemmy Clark boatyard,
Yeah.
or bombs across the river, or you know, you can go on and on about the true history
Yeah.
of, you know, Gilly and Fessenden down at Goose Rocks with the fire stations
Yeah.
down there, and the Kittredge brothers who donated the station at Cape Porpoise,
Cape Porpoise,
and
yeah.
the communications building when it was on top of Crow Hill, and the three of them and the Kittredge Fund for purchasing equipment. And you know, you go through and have a chance to look at a lot of these things, and this is a remarkable town.
Yeah.
And I would bet that a great number of people know where Wannabe Cove is, down next to the bushes. Do they have a clue as to what actually happened there to give it the name?
Would you like to explain? I know, but some people don't. We want to talk about that?
A large steamship came ashore there in the fog back 102 years ago. In about 102 years and 2 weeks ago. And that's where its name was Wannabe. And they thought they were headed into Portland Harbor
Oh, wow.
and mistook buoys in the fog.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's some marvelous pictures of it way up on the rocks.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those in our Kennebunkport history book that Joyce Butler wrote. And it is amazing to see. Now, is there still part of the
Oh, yeah.
ship there?
Yep.
Some remains, yeah.
Yeah. So
Unless you go scuba diving, you won't see them. There's
Okay.
nothing that sticks up above water.
okay, it's all below,
Yeah.
so, and is there a plaque out there that says?
Not yet.
No? Oh, okay.
I keep hoping that there will get one there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's because I think it's really it's I don't know. Whenever you hear stories like that, it really makes people, even just visiting town for a day or two, knowing a little bit more about.
Yep.
So what happened with that? Did you ever know why? Except it was just thinking it was in Portland.
Yeah, they got
Somebody asleep at the wheel.
not really. If
No.
you think 100 years ago, there were none of the advances in navigation systems
yeah.
that we have today.
Yeah.
And everything was by pure old-fashioned navigation. And they miscued,
Yeah.
easy to do,
Yeah.
and
There,
Boom.
There it goes.
but the history of this town is how many people know anything about the railroad that ran from Sanford to Cape Porpoise? Or look at where the Atlantic Shore Trolley Museum, the Atlantic Shore trolleys
Yeah.
came into Dock Square. How did they get there?
I think we're going to have you back and talk about that.
Oh, there's all kinds of it's just neat.
Yeah, it really is. So, are you able to, with younger people that sign on to the fire department as volunteers? I hope they like to hear your stories. I hope they like to hear about the history. Do they? Do they care? I hope they care.
They get to listen to it sometimes.
Yeah.
If they like it or not.
back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
No,
it's
that's good.
it's just so important, I think, to know because everybody learns.
Yeah.
So
We don't talk about it very often.
yeah,
You know, when I came here, when Sarah and I were married and came here in '62, we had the little Ford trucks that had been purchased after the
yeah,
47 fire, and you jumped on the back of it, literally,
right.
and hung on while
Yeah.
somebody drove you off to
Yeah.
wherever you were going, and
Yeah.
you got off. If we had any gear, it rarely was ever used, put on. If you did that today and got photographed, and it appeared, the town would have lawsuits from the federal and state governments.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well, and you
it
had
changes.
yeah. Well, you didn't have respirators back then.
We had some,
You did?
yeah.
No, the first air packs came in were in '63.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I had my old MSA.
Yeah, well, a couple of those kicking around.
Okay. But even that, the equipment has changed so much.
hugely.
So when you're fully dressed, how many pounds are on? How many
know.
pounds are of equipment? Do you know, Mike? No?
She's over 25 pounds, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, easily.
Yeah. I've seen one of my nephews is a police officer in Biddeford. And it's amazing that what they have to put
Yeah.
on themselves these days before they even, like how do you even, it's like the Michelin tire
Yeah.
guy, you're
Yeah.
out there walking around. It's amazing. But I see you all too. And, besides your hat and your boots, there's a lot more that goes. Stuff. Yep. Yep. So, well, we'd love to have you come back another time and talk more about, because we haven't even scratched the surface of some of this history, but it really is nice to sit down and talk with you both. Thank you, Mike Kelly, for producing our show today. Jim Burrows, Dan Beard, thank you for being our
Thank
guests. And so hopefully maybe we'll have session 2.
Session 2.
How's that?
If anybody's brave enough to watch session 1.
So, and thank you all for joining us tonight, and we will hope to see you back here next time for another episode of What's Your Story?